Hello, and welcome to the BNP Paribas Asset Management Talking Heads podcast. Every week, Talking Heads will bring you in-depth insights and analysis through the lens of sustainability on the topics that really matter to investors. In this episode, we'll be discussing stewardship. I'm Daniel Morris, Chief Market Strategist, and I'm joined by Michael Herskovich, Global Head of Stewardship. Welcome, Michael, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Daniel, and great for being here.
For the first question, Michael, perhaps you could just explain to us what stewardship means, particularly for an asset manager.
For me, the word stewardship is how you're going to use your investment and influence with companies, with policymakers, to contribute to low carbon, environmental sustainability, inclusive economy, whatever thematics you believe are important. And for BNP, it's going to be those that I've just described. So we use different tools. We use voting. This is the first classical tool when you're referring to stewardship, because you're going to exercise your rights and responsibility as a shareholder, and you can vote during annual general meeting. So historically, stewardship has been put through the landscape of the voting activity, the equities investment, and that has been an historical piece of the stewardship activities. The second aspect is what we call engagement. So how we're going to proactively engage with issuers, and that's where it's not only equities, it's also bond, with the aim to improve their performance. Whatever, again, on sustainability approach, on governance, whatever dimension is important for you, this is the second pillar that we will do, the engagement piece. And the last piece for us on how we define stewardship is all related to public policy and how we are going to engage with regulator and policymaker as well to shape the market in which we invest and the rules that guide and govern company behavior. So really the three framework towards voting, engagement, public policy, and that's how we define what it is stewardship and what's our strategy towards stewardship.
Let's focus in a little bit more on voting then. Can you explain a bit BNP Paribas Asset Management's approach to voting, maybe some of the key figures for activities over the last year?
So we are voting in average on 2,000 general meetings per year. You will have more detail and all the figures, the exact figure on the sustainability report that was just published. And on this voting scope of 2,000 general meeting, I think that it's important to point out our level of opposition. We are an engaged investor. We do not hesitate to vote against management proposal, and we oppose to one proposal out of three, so 33% of opposition rate. That's really has been part of the DNA of our approach strategy, because when you're voting against, when you're opposing a proposal, you're sending a strong message for the company to change its approach and to adopt our policy and our guidelines. So that's one dimension, the opposition. If we go a little bit deeply, I mean, when you vote at general meeting, you're often voting at board election. You're electing director to serve on the board. You're voting on financial operation. You're voting as well on executive compensation. And that's the three topics that are the most common when you vote. And that's where we have our opposition rate at the highest level on those three topics, including a 60% opposition on executive compensation. So that's one dimension of the voting, opposition on classical traditional resolutions that are up to a vote. We are also incorporating more and more environment and social dimension on the way we vote at AGM and expecting transparency from company on their emission, but as well transparency on their strategies, their commitment to reach net zero by 2050. We also incorporate last year biodiversity elements, especially on water and forest, transparency on sectors that are really key for biodiversity topic. So really through the AGM, through the annual general meeting, we are going to vote on board election and take into account those environmental and social dimension to decide if we're going to support or not those elections. And there is another dimension, which is shareholder resolution. So most of the votes are submitted by companies, but as a shareholder, you have a right to submit your own proposal. And that is something that we can do, and that we have done last year. We have done that 4 times in 2022, especially as an escalation process when we do not have through the engagement the results that we're expecting. And we also have a high level of support on those shareholder proposals more broadly, especially when they help to improve the environmental and social dimension.
One of the other key pillars that you mentioned was engagement. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, what the main focus is for BNP Paribas Asset Management, how you go about it?
We engage with companies related to their governance issues, the annual general meeting and the voting, but we also engage with companies to improve their sustainability strategy. There we try to focus on what has been put as priority for BNP Paribas Asset Management on our global sustainability strategy, which is a focus on the energy transition, environmental sustainability, and equality and inclusive growth. So really having an engagement that is more thematics based on those key elements that will impact the strategy and the long-term performance of the company. The third dimension is to engage companies, issuers based on their performance, their environmental social governance performance. So we are going to seek to engage with the companies that have low ESG performance or that have some area of improvement to really tackle their issue. So different dimension on the engagement, different topics that we engage on, and also different way we are going to engage. Because you can engage individually. We engage individually on behalf of BNP Paribas Asset Management, going to our main holdings, discussing as an investor with those companies. But we also go more and more collectively, work with other investors and engage collectively with companies to try to have more power, because together with other investors have more weight in the different capital of the company, and also to share the work between different investors. So that's what we have been doing for a long time, but that has been really part of the key last few years of trend and focus on the industry, where we're seeing more and more new initiative. We launched last year Nature Action 100, which is a collective initiative on biodiversity that you can find out more on our website details. And we have been active on Climate Action 100 Plus for a long time, that is tackling climate change and net zero challenges for companies. So a lot of collective work that has been done where we are playing a key role in the industry to try to push companies always to improve their sustainability practice.
If I could summarize some of the key points that you shared with us, Michael, fundamentally, you said that stewardship is all about engagement, if you will, a proactive involvement with an investment that you've made. And once you look at that investment, thinking about how you can influence the company or influence policymakers, particularly around achieving ESG objectives. You said there were 3 pillars: voting, engagement, and public policy. For example, for voting, you said that BNP Paribas Asset Management votes against proposals around 1/3 of the time, and also submits our own proposals, so really highlighting that involvement and that proactive approach to the investment. Engagement is around working with companies to improve performance. Simply, it's not enough to only invest in, shall we say, virtuous companies, but it's perhaps even more important to work with companies that are not yet quite so virtuous and helping them to improve their performance, again, around ESG criteria. And you highlighted that all this and more is available in our recently published sustainability report, which you can find on our website. Well, Michael, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.
That's it for this week's episode of Talking Heads. If you would like more information, please reach out to your BNP Paribas Asset Management contact or check out Viewpoint, our website for investment insights at viewpoint.bnpparibas-am.com. For listeners who have devices with Alexa, you can ask Alexa to enable Investment Insights or search for Investment Insights on Amazon under the category Alexa Skills. You've been listening to the BNP Paribas Asset Management Talking Heads podcast with me, Daniel Morris. and Michael Herskovich. Please do join me next week. Until then, take care.
This presentation includes a discussion on current market events and is not intended as investment advice or an offer of products or services by BNP Paribas Asset Management. Please keep in mind that the information and analysis in this presentation is only current as of the publication date.